How do you turn a business started at 23 into a multi-million-dollar operation in just 3 years? And how do you do it while overcoming personal loss and financial setbacks? Today, we're sitting down with Ian Smith of Omega Exteriors to hear his incredible journey from selling newspaper subscriptions to building a booming roofing company. Ian's story is about grit, resilience, and a relentless commitment to mastering his craft. Ian founded Omega Exteriors at the young age of 23, and now his team generates millions in revenue. His passion for knowledge and relationships has been the key to his success, and it's what makes his story so unique. But Ian's journey is also deeply personal. Growing up with little, losing his father, and having to depend on himself for success shaped the leader he is today. In this episode, you'll learn why asking the right questions matters, how Ian built a culture of continuous learning, and the importance of perseverance. Let's dive in with Ian Smith. Welcome to the Roofing Success Podcast. I'm Jim Aline, and I'm here to bring you insights from top leaders in the roofing industry to help you grow and scale your roofing business. Ian Smith with Omega Exteriors. How's it going today, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on, Jim.
Another Minnesota boy.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's fun to have the local crew on. You have been, I'll have to say, man, you've really made a splash on the scene in the Twin Cities here over the last couple of years. I started hearing about you from my friend Alex Bucher, who I had on the podcast, and from John Cenac, and just with great praise, right? Like, man, have you seen Omega? Have you come across Ian yet? Because we're both in the Twin Cities area, and I'm like, I started seeing those trucks around. What's going on? Like, what's up with Ian, right? And so have wanted to have you on, and glad that we could get some time to do this. For the audience, give us a little bit about your story, man. How'd you get into roofing and get Omega started?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm 26 years old. I've owned Omega now for 3 years, so I started when I was 23 years old. I've been in the roofing industry going on 7 years now. My background is when I was 16 years old, I was selling newspaper subscriptions in grocery stores for the Pioneer Press, and made decent money doing that and learned sales at a young age. Then I heard about the opportunity in roofing about 7 years ago, and heard this promise that you could absolutely crush it, and turned out to be a little false. But then a little hard work and a little elbow grease got me to move to Omaha, Nebraska, and I've worked in 10 states all around the country, and decided after 4.5 years it was time to move back home. Worked for a company up here for a year, and got nothing but good things to say about them. And then now I'm here in Minnesota doing my own thing. So,
where do you think that entrepreneurial bug has come from for you?
Yeah,
because if you were, I was the same way, man. I had the paper route at 11 years old. I was selling candy door to door by the time I was 12. Like I've always just gone out and done stuff like that. Where do you think that comes from for you?
Yeah, so for me, I would definitely equate it to like growing up broke, growing up poor. So, it's very humbling. It teaches you a lot. If I wanted like extra things in life at 10 years old, I was going around the neighborhood asking if I mow people's lawns, and then kind of put that buzz in me. And then my dad was sick most of my life, where there wasn't really an income there, and it was kind of solely reliant on my mom. And with me, when I lost my dad about a year and a half into the industry, I sucked my first year, but then it was put up or shut up time. I didn't have a support system. And while it was one of the hardest things I ever went through, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because I only could rely on myself. And then a lot of good people surrounded me, people like John, people like Chris, like my brother being a building official. There's a lot of really good people that have impacted my life.
Yeah, there's something to that. Like there's definitely something to like having to do it versus choosing to do it, right? Like there's a different type of motivation. I was watching I think it was a podcast recently, and they were talking about a study that was done about people who are successful, and there's a relationship with childhood trauma
Yep.
and success.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, am I supposed to screw my kids up? Like, what do I got to do here,
I
right?
get it.
Like,
Yeah.
what do I got to do? Because my kids are, man, this is too easy for them.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a lot of those challenges, man. That's those challenges, having to overcome those challenges. It really builds character, and it
Yep.
really that we always find a way when there is no other way. I promise you. Like, human
Yep.
beings do that,
Yeah.
right? When there is no other way, we find a way. And so, I mean, you started young. So would you start selling roofs at about what, 19?
Yep. 19 years
Did I
old.
do the math right?
Yeah, out of Omaha, Nebraska for
Yep.
a really large company, but I was part of a company. There was over 100 people, and only 3 people knew roofing, so very little training. Kind of had to do everything on my own, but I learned a lot through it. And my first year, like I went from a high-paying job being newspapers to going and making only 44,000 my first year, and I had a couple buddies tell me like, yeah, stick with it, and showed me what was kind of possible, because they said I could definitely do it, but I was just kind of be led in the wrong direction. And the following years, when everything kind of happened, and multi-million-dollar producer, multi-million-dollar
What was
producer
the
every year.
change? What was the change there? Like, I mean, it sounds like, and with a lot of things, right? You got
Yep.
to get your footing. You have to, you have to kind of start to understand it. What do you think if you can pinpoint one or two or three things that were like, hey, I changed this, that, and the other thing, and all of us, and that I went from making 44,000 to, 100,000, couple 100,000, whatever you
Mm-hmm.
made that year.
Yep. I would definitely say it came to I mean, when I would go to all these places, when I worked in the United States, I didn't really have any friends in any of these areas. And so I had to go create opportunities for myself, whether it was friendships, relationships, whether it was going and meeting customers. Like, I had nothing else to do. Like, I just wanted it more than anyone else. And I was willing to go work hard for it. Then the day, like, one of the reasons why, like, I think I've gotten any side of like success or anything like that is because I've messed up more than just about anyone. You know, my first $100,000 job I ever did, where I'm expecting to go make, 15, 20 grand on, I went 5,000 negative on, because it was all these what I thought were steel buildings, and they were all tin. And I put steel on, and somehow the company just didn't manage it and all that kind of stuff. And me being 19, I go 5,000 negative on it, and then I'm going over the call with my accountant at the time, and my mom calls me once. I don't answer it. She calls me twice. I say, I got to answer this. I got a call that not only did I just lose $5,000, I lost my dad in that moment, and then I had another bad thing happen. And so 3 things just hit me all at once, and then I went back to Minnesota 3 days later. I drove all the way back down to Omaha. I'm like, I got to go work. I got to go make something happen. And it was just like this thing just clicked.
So it's just a switch. It was like, I mean, maybe there was a little bit of, and I'm reading into it a little, but like uh, almost a little bit of the work helped you through the grief,
Yeah,
right? Like,
absolutely. Or like fight or flight, I just like
yeah,
had sink or swim.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, it was
That's
definitely
something,
a
man.
tough thing. But
Yeah, that's something. And I know for a lot of people, like, man, I was really confident in my late teens and early 20s and things like that.
mm,
I didn't realize how young I looked.
mm,
Did you ever experience that?
yeah,
Like, at the door,
100%.
they're like, why is a baby knocking on my door? Like, what are you in high school, junior high? So I'm sure that there was some overcoming of that too. How have you overcome the kind of the stigma of youth as you entered the roofing industry, found some success on the sales side, and then started your own company?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like a really good question. So I would say, like, when I first started, it was a big hurdle. Like, I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I needed to work. And so what I did was I grew a goatee. Like, was not a good look. Don't recommend it. But in the moment, it gave me at least a little bit of confidence. And then just like, I think confidence is one of the biggest things. Like,
Hmm.
fake it till you make it. I get that, but like the next thing that kind of like transfer that over, like once I had the confidence down, was I just wanted to be more knowledgeable than just about anyone, and that's one reason why me and John Cenac relate
Yeah.
a lot, and Chris, and like brother, like I want to know all the codes. I want to know exactly like that Valley Metals 29 gauge steel, and it's like something that like how do you combat certain different things that what is the tensile strength of each shingle or all that kind of stuff. I think it's like really good knowledge, and when I can say those kind of things, I'm presenting myself as the expert, and I flip the script, and at that point, it doesn't matter the age. And it's definitely something I've had to learn with my business, because when I'm 23 years old, hiring people that are twice my age, it makes a difference.
Yeah, I love what you said there. So to me, I'm going to summarize it or
Yeah,
paraphrase it
yeah.
a little bit. Is that knowledge brought confidence,
Yep, absolutely.
right? And so I think that's a key point to make. You know, a lot of times when we're starting out stuff, we have
Mhm.
this enthusiasm, but
Yeah,
we have no knowledge, right? We're ready.
absolutely.
We're willing to just go, and then as we go along, the more you learn, the more you know, the higher your level of knowledge gets. The way that I like to explain it, Ian, I've said this, one of my Jimisms, I guess you'd call it, is I always, and this is how I've lived my life, I always want to keep my knowledge level above my income level,
Yeah,
right? And so I want to look at my bank account and go, I'm way smarter than that dollar amount, right?
absolutely.
And but if I don't keep focused on continuously improving and gaining more knowledge, man, that thing's going to level out and or go the other way, right? And so I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
What were some of the steps that you took to go out and build that knowledge? Like, how did you go? Did you sit down with manufacturer reps, or where did you get that? Where did you go and seek that knowledge from, and how did you take that in?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the biggest thing that I'd do is I would just start reading like the installation guidelines for things. I mean, about as rudimentary as you could possibly get, but I think it's so cool how we grow up in a day and age where we have YouTube. We have the single greatest like wealth builder that's ever been imaginable. Like where if you want to
Yeah,
learn how to change like a transmission, you can go learn how to change transmission in about 2 hours on YouTube. Or if you want to go learn how to sell roofs, or if you want to understand what like the most common roofing problems are, you just go Google it. And I think that's one of the coolest things. But that's why like when you go into something like new, like Windows, you got to start somewhere, whether
yeah,
it's like selling your first job, whether it's going and working for someone else. But I think two options like YouTube or go in and find someone who has what you want, go do what they do, say what they say, and eventually they'll have what they have.
yeah.
And you just got to find someone willing to mentor you and take them under your wing, which I'm very grateful to have Chris Zimmerman as my mentor, and then also Adam Patterson. Like they're just incredible people. They're great leaders. They lead with a Christian faith, which is really important for me. And I can't say enough but incredible things to help me keep learning.
How do you think you develop those relationships? Because I encourage this a lot. Like I encourage, like there are so many people in this industry willing to share. Right before we got on camera, you were like, "Hey, are you going to RoofCon this year? Or going to this conference or that
Mhm.
conference?" And I'm like, man, I tell people all the time that sometimes at those conferences, the conversation you have at the lunch table when you just sit down with someone you don't know might be more impactful than the person that's on stage, right?
Absolutely.
Like, and those relationships. And I truly believe that there are so many people out there that are willing to share, even with people in their markets, right?
Mhm.
I know guys in San Antonio that meet. There's a group of guys in San Antonio or owners that meet that are all competitors, and
Yeah.
they all share ideas and have conversations. There's a group in Pittsburgh that anytime they're all the GAF guys in Pittsburgh, you know who you are. When you're at the GAF Wealth Builders event, they're hanging out, they're talking, they're sharing their stories, they're giving this information. What advice would you have to people about building those relationships?
Yeah. I would say this is probably my top two greatest skill sets is going to be able to create relationships with people. One, because I'm a big listener. I want to know, I want to learn. And one of the biggest things that happened for me in my life was up until eighth grade, I didn't have any friends in my life. Not because I didn't couldn't get them because I didn't want them, because I felt like too many people would ask questions where they just wanted to, like, hey, what'd you do this weekend? And they would basically go over like, well, this is what I did this weekend. This is why it's so much better. And so I've just never been that kind of person. I generally want to get to know people. But how I create all these relationships, a great example is I brought my buddy Russ. He's been doing this 15 years, owner operator. We went to IRE together. And I said, Russ, I just want you to watch one thing I do here. And it's like, watch how many questions I ask, because like I genuinely want to know the answer to, but people are willing to share, just like you just said. But I just want to ask more questions than anyone. Like anytime John has a class, anytime Tim Johnson is speaking, anytime I have an opportunity to go to something like this, I want to sit front row if I have an opportunity to ask questions. I'm always one of those first people to do it. But I'm just very intentional with meeting those people and trying to pick their brain, because I'm 26. I have so much to learn. I have a lot to offer, but like I have so much to learn. But I would say that that's the greatest piece of advice I give this whole thing is don't be afraid to ask questions, because it could lead you down a path you didn't see possible.
And questions are the most powerful thing. I think that a lot of people start in this business. A lot of people start in the sales side, right? Mm-hmm. If you're on the production side, that's great too. It's a lot of asking good questions is great there also.
Yep.
On the sales side specifically, I teach my 9-year-old boys this, right? I have 9-year-old twin boys. I teach them. If you ask my boys, what is sales? They will tell you asking good questions.
Yep. It's
like,
awesome.
That's the response. And you want to develop that skill set of asking good questions.
100%.
There's always people get a little afraid. Well, I don't want to ask a dumb question.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like,
you'll
ask
learn
the question, man. Like, if you need the knowledge, ask the question.
Yep.
You'll never have the knowledge if you don't ask the question.
Yep.
Going to these events, taking the time, like, I think you're a little bit nerdy for reading the manual.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to know. I want more knowledge.
You're taking it to another level there, but the installation manuals on stuff. But those are the things, man. Like, those are those extra things that you can do to really get impactful. But learning how to ask good questions. Have you been in, like, is this something that you've just been all your life? I actually did. Here's something. I had ChatGPT interview me for my podcast. It just came out.
Awesome.
And Chat asked me how I started. ChatGPT asked me how I started the podcast. It was one of the questions it asked me. And I was like, well, I was at an event and I was talking to a guy and he was like, he told me, you should start a podcast. And I said, why do you think that? And he was like, because you're always asking questions.
Yeah.
Like, you're so inquisitive. And I think that skill set, man, for people out listening, ask questions, right? Ask adjusters questions.
Absolutely.
Ask your reps questions. Ask your accountant questions. Ask everyone you can questions and dig in and get that understanding. You'll be much farther along. I want to commend you.
Thank you.
And of course, the journey's not over. And I want, because I know people get a little funny about this sometimes about like, the top line numbers and how people's success and things like that. And so I'll throw out there that your journey's not over. It's just starting, but you've had a great start to this journey.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're willing to share, but like, what was, from a revenue standpoint, you had a heck of a first year.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you.
And a better second year, and now even a better third year, right? Like, how did you start off with a multi-million-dollar, if you don't mind me saying that, a multi-million-dollar first year in business?
Yeah, I would say it's probably 2 or 3 things. So a little bit about my background, Omega, everything like that. Our first year we did $6.5 million. Average roofing company is 2 to 3, like our second year we did $10.5 million, which was last year. And this year we're already about 8. We'll probably finish about 13 with everything on the books right now. Well, actually we're about 9, but we'll finish about right around 12 to 13, right in that range. And so we're constantly growing, especially when we're having a down year this year with less storms, got to go do a lot more retail, a lot of things like that, upgrades. But the biggest thing I think that I had with success and like right off the ground was um, I just never thought I was going to be a great recruiter. I just never thought I had that skill set. I was really nervous
Mm.
about it. And it ended up being one of the things I'm absolutely best at. Or if I had to say the top two things, it would definitely be asking questions. The second thing is like recruiting people because I lead from the front and I want to go out in the field. I want to like, go tell people, like, hey, work on this or try this, or like if they have a different idea, like I'm gonna take it. Like I want it to. If it's gonna better them, it's gonna better me. Like I am not too ignorant to know that like I can learn from this guy who just started because they might pick up on something I just didn't realize or didn't know. I'm always learning. And then I would also say just like I'm just really big on giving back to my people. I'm just really big on like always doing the right thing. Like there's several times where I've lost money with reps, or I took a chance, or I took a risk that believing in someone that doesn't always work out. But I wouldn't have it any other way, for the reason being that uh, I want everyone to, no matter what, to leave my company or stay with my company and say nothing but good things, because that's what matters to me most. It's not about making a dollar. That's not why I'm in this industry. And the third thing that I think made Omega have the success it did is I think there's three types of owners in this industry. There's someone who's really good at sales. There's someone who's really good at production, and there's someone who's really good at business. And so this is actually my second business. I used to actually own the newspaper kiosk company. I did pretty good. I had about eight or nine guys working for me when I was 19. I had a 0.74 GPA leaving college. And what happened was I got in the industry not knowing a whole lot, asked a bunch of questions, and then by leading from the front, I just saw the best kind of results like I possibly could ask for. And I still knock doors. I'll still go out in the field with the guys. I'll go on adjustments. I'll help do estimates. And one of my biggest challenges has had to be delegating, which I've been learning. And Adam's been helping me a lot. Chris has been helping me a lot. And because of that, the business keeps on being fruitful and will be for years to come.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
I think that one of the things that that owners don't realize when they're getting started, or even along the way, a lot of times it's not 100% clear, but a business is people.
Yep.
And so having a skill set in hiring is probably the number one skill set for success,
Yeah.
right? Like if you hire the best people or can attract the best people, or not maybe not even the best people, but great people. We'll just say
Mm-hmm.
great people, not even the best.
Yep.
If you can attract great people that work together well and all are willing to walk the same path and march together, that's it, man.
Yep.
That's the thing. Having hired as a teenager, probably had some lessons
Yep.
there, right?
Absolutely.
But now let's talk about let's talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on recruiting? Like first,
Mhm.
like just your broad thoughts. How do you attract the right people to Omega?
Yeah, I think I can probably elaborate quite a bit on this. So my first year, I mean, I was able to recruit 15 people. You know, a lot of people like that. Some people stayed. Some people wanted to go be adjusters. Some people wanted to do something completely different. You know, but at the end of the day, like it's always being able to adapt like around it, because like you never know when someone's either going to get A, burnt out, or B, going to be a killer when you never thought it could be possible. I hire based on culture. So whether or not I think someone's a good person or not. I can't tell you a single time that I've ever let someone go where there was lack of effort. You know, I'm willing to work on that kind of thing. But if they have a bad attitude, they're bad for culture, I have to make those hard decisions, even if they're a friend of mine, which I've been tested a couple times with. But I'm not willing to take that sacrifice where it could ruin the rest of the culture. And I would say that's probably the biggest thing. But in terms of finding people, doing all those kind of things, I found when you're a good person, you put yourself in the right situations. You go out and Try to do things the right way. Adjusters will recruit for you. Sales reps will recruit for you. And then just also your network. I mean, success leaves clues, and people are willing to reach out that I know I never saw coming. And then one of my favorite things ever is just giving a guy a call who's making $17 an hour before, and then tell him like, "Hey man, you just made 100K for the first time in your life, or you just made a life changing amount of money, or you remember that goal we set? Well, now you can go do it." Like that's just the coolest thing to me, and that's my why. And if you look at like Simon Sinek, like if you find the why and work from there, like I know my why, and it's empowering other people and giving people like a home. And so
Yeah, that's awesome. What do you do? What's your process of determining if they're a culture fit or not?
yeah, I would say one, whether or not they're ethical. So whether or not I could see them lying or not. Someone, if I hand them my wallet, that I know I'm getting it back. I would say I'm looking for someone with a positive attitude, not someone if I put them in a tough situation, if they're going to complain or complain to other people. That's not the kind of person I want. I want someone to say, all right, I was in this tough situation. How do I learn from it? I'm looking for someone who's also asking questions. Um, it can be annoying some days, when I get questions from 30 people, it can be a lot, but at the same time, like I would much rather have them ask those questions, and I'm willing to put that time in those people because I know it's going to help them. And I know at some point they're going to be self-sufficient, and that's where you delegate leaders. And that's where
Yeah,
growth comes.
that's where growth comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you hire first and kind of feel it out along the way? During the hiring process, do you do anything specific that makes you like that kind of gives you an example of the things that to make sure that they're that fit? Or is it okay, I'll bring you in and we're going to go out today door knocking and I'm going to kind of feel you out? What's your process there?
Yeah, I would say it's going to be three things. So one, I want to see whether or not I usually don't go for people in the roofing industry. I'm not a huge fan of it, and the reason being is they're not willing to listen to a 26-year-old. Even if I had any bit of success, it's just like I'm not a huge fan of someone who thinks they're too good to learn. Because I know I'm not. You can critique me all day. You could work for me, and like let's come up with a solution. I'm a big solution person. Drives my girlfriend crazy sometimes because emotion's emotion. But at the same time, solution. I would say another thing I'm looking for is I'm looking for someone, if they do come from the roofing industry, are they going to badmouth their previous company? Were they in a bad situation, or are they going to say this poor me story that a lot of people have? Sometimes it really is like a bad situation. I know who those companies are. That does make a difference. But at the end of the day, like if they bring it up, I know I'm not speaking on it. It's like I'm just trying to test to see what they're going to say and see how it made them feel, because there's a good chance if they're talking bad about another company, what are they going to do when they leave my company in the future if they leave my company? And so
Yeah,
I'm just not willing to take those culture risks, because I would rather have plotters. I'd rather have guys that do $500 million, than guys that go do $2-3 million. I would rather fire the person doing that much than have it ruin my culture. It's just not, money's not worth it to me.
definitely. What do you, what have you done to like define your culture for me? What do
Yep.
what is your culture, and how did you create it, and how do you keep it going?
Yeah, I would say people that are willing to help each other, whether they have skin in the game or not. I think that's really important, because there's so many different situations where, let's say, for example, you take off siding and there's some house insulation on there, like interior insulation, and the adjuster will be like, well, that's 1 inch fan. I mean, 1 inch fan fold. We're only gonna pay for the one side. Well, how do we get to the finish line? First of all, like that siding, it's if that interior insulation ever gets wet, it ruins everything else. It's also 1 inch. Fan folds 3/8 to 5/8, and so that's not going to be a waterproofing envelope because there's no water tightness. So if we have to replace one side, we have to replace the rest. And when one person, I teach them how to go through it, I just get so empowered by seeing, well, hey guys, what do I do here? And then one of my guys already goes running to him like, hey, this is what we did last time. Here's what worked. Or what do we do if like we got to replace like half a slope of wood shake? What's the break factor? Like a lot of those different things. These people are more than willing to help each other. And the other thing with culture too is like I like to set incentive goals. Like this month I did something where if anyone hits like 150K in sales, we're gonna go to Colorado and for 3 days. We're gonna go fishing in the mountains, and it'll be a good time. And we have a sales goal. If you hit 650K, you get to go to Jamaica. And so it's really fun and it's empowering to see those people. And I really do invest a lot in my staff too, because like it's really tough when all these sales guys are constantly getting all the perks, the rewards, everything like that. Because without sales, there's no company. But then what I do is I'll bring them to Jamaica too, because like that's an added bonus and it's quite expensive. But like then they go tell their friends about how awesome their boss is, because like that is my goal, because I truly like every single person that works with me. And I want them to have some that they're proud to post on Facebook, that they're proud to be a part of, and I want to invest in them.
Yeah. I think that's a big thing. And it was kind of funny you went there, because I was going to ask you about that. Like,
Yep.
It is funny how it's not funny. It's a part of sales that
Yep.
like that is a driver of sales, right?
Mm-hmm.
The trips, the reward,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. But there's this other part of the company that the support, the support of those salespeople also need to be rewarded, and that's a great thing. And I think that's a big thing. I talk about it in terms, because I'm a marketer, so I talk about it in terms of like you're marketing to your people to be employees at your company and stay employees at your company,
Mm-hmm.
and then what you're doing for them and with them is marketing to other people to attract them to be employees of your company
Absolutely.
too, right? Like it goes together so well. And when you're doing that, you're really creating the right environment and people that want to stay with you a long time. People that there's a question. It's like that gets asked is, would you leave? It's for employee NPS scores, ENPS scores. There's
Mm-hmm.
always a question on that. If you survey your team, and it's, would you leave your job for another company at a 10% raise or not? And that's a good indication of
Absolutely.
the culture, right? Like if they'll take that 10% and go quick, you're missing some things
Mm-hmm.
on that day-to-day basis that stuff that keeps them around more. I think it was a study by Google. It might have been by Google, but there was a study that was done that it was like 85% of people said that they wouldn't take that job for 10% more if they had a friend at the company.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Has your team become friends? Are they like
Yeah.
how do you encourage that?
Yeah, I would say most people have, when it comes to, I guess, the culture and everything like that. It's a good and bad thing. Like if you look at like Machiavelli, is it better to be feared or better to be loved? I get the whole premise of the book is going to be feared, but I would argue to be loved. It's like, every single person in my company I'm friends with, every single person I see very highly of, I can't say anything bad about a single one of them. And that's created a really good culture. But what I would also say is when you believe in people, when you try to do team bonding events, when you try to do group learning sessions, go out in the field together, do all those kind of things, like a lot of times you find people that want to succeed together, want to win together. And if you look at like the top four things why people leave a company, usually money is about four on that list. Usually it's going to be culture is going to be number one. Usually it's going to be whether or not someone promised you something and didn't pay it, whether it was a bonus, whether it was an incentive, whether it was whatever it was. Third thing is going to be usually like if it's poorly ran and like they don't have the support. But money is usually about four on that list. It's not usually the top one. And people would rather choose a culture that is inducive to like winning or to being a family than I would say money. Granted, I think I pay pretty darn well, but I think those things go together pretty good.
Yeah, and I think that if you take care of that part first, then and encourage the financial success, right? That helps a lot, right? That
Yeah.
really helps a lot. So what have you? And I know in the past we've talked. We chatted. It was a week or so ago, and you talked
Mhm.
about wanting one of the most fulfilling things to you was helping people succeed financially,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And so, finance, it might be number 4 on the list, but it is so impactful in people's lives to have them reach a place financially where they can buy a home, do things, save for, put their kids through college, do
Absolutely.
those types of things. What do you, how do you think about that in terms of helping them develop their financial acumen and I guess being better off?
Yeah. I mean, what I would probably say to that is going to be like, whether it's going to be bringing in a financial advisor, brings a realtor on how to buy a home. Like I want these guys to not just learn stuff about roofing, and siding and windows, gutters. I want them to learn about like life skills. Cause like one of the things that I do for recruiting is the average age of my company is probably about 26, 27 years old. I want the young guys. I want people that didn't have someone show them how to do a lot of things. And while I may not have all the answers, I know a lot of people that do. And so I'm willing to bring those people in. Like we just had Dan Walrick come in the other day, and he's going over like end of the season burnout. He's going over things like how to win basically at a high level for X amount of years. And right before this call, I mean, I was on Dan's call for 30 minutes and still just ended probably about 10 minutes ago because I want to keep learning too on that kind of things. Him and Deshaun were doing a great job. But I want to give these guys opportunities to go put them in a better place. And when it comes to hiring them, I ask them always the same couple questions. It's going to be what's important to you? What do you want to see change in the next 12 months? What do you want to see change in the next 5 years? And then
Mm.
by doing that, I can create that goal. Like I sat down with the guy and he said, well, to help homeowners, like, all right, well, Russell, this is not about like, all right, what's going to help you help homeowners right now. This is about like what's your financial goals to be able to do it, and how can I help you get there? Granted, helping homeowners is the focal point of the company, but like I'm solely focused on you right now, and so being able to do that, and I know we're gonna be able to hit those goals. It's exciting, it's fulfilling, and I have like an album on my phone where it's just nice messages from reps. I literally just screenshot every single time I get something like Ian changed my life, or here's this cool opportunity that you help me create. So I'd love that, and it's fulfilling to me.
I love those questions.
Yeah.
I want to know some of the best answers or that you've gotten
hmm
when you ask those questions. Like, what were some of the ones that you were like, man, that's something.
Yeah. I want to go take off to the Dominican Republic or Colombia for 3 months, and so giving them the freedom to be able to do that kind of thing. I'm perfectly willing to help support that goal and put together a plan because, like, I don't do anything in life without like writing down exactly what my goals are every single year and what couple things and factors are going to help me achieve them. And so, and then another one's going to be like, I just really want like a TRX. I'm like, well, let's not think about financially. I just don't think it's a good idea. I'll coach them through that. And they still want to do it at that point. That's up to them.
Why
Um,
not a TRX? It's such a
yeah,
great idea. It's going to be worth half of what you buy it for in 2 years, right? Like
no,
it's just
no.
a great financial decisions.
Yeah. And so a lot of it's just like coach them through that kind of stuff. Cause like, I think one thing I do really good is like, I'm not flashy with anything. I don't need a whole lot.
Yeah.
I'm pretty simple. I mean, I bought a used car and it was under 20 grand, you know? But that's just me.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Like, and that's an example, right? There is a leading by example, and it, I think that in your future it may become more challenging
hmm
to be as to
Yeah,
live as frugally when you're,
absolutely.
if you
My
continue to
family.
find success at the level you are,
hmm
man, it's a challenging thing. There's a time where you go, wow, I can really buy that new boat.
Yep, absolutely.
you know, there's a couple guys in the, like I don't know if you know Tony Flatham from Build
Very
Strong,
well.
like, boy, he has a real nice boat out on
You
the
earned
St.
it.
Croix, right? Like
Yep.
he has some very nice cars, but I think that so there may be a transfer. Like there's two sides to that coin, right? In the beginning, you want to not show that frugality, but
hmm
help people understand that you're not in it. It's not in it for this. But then there's a point in time where it's actually to be aspirational, and I think that's the
Yeah.
way Tony does it, right? Like Tony is like it's aspirational for his team
Yeah.
that wow. this is the, like, that's really
Achievable.
attainable.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, that's a
absolutely.
crazy thing. So, as you continue through this journey, it may be like, wow, all of a sudden it's like, well, all right, maybe it's time for this, and hopefully that you can do it in an aspirational way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Maybe that's a
absolutely.
good path for it. And for people listening, if it's your first year in business and you got 3 reps and you got a brand new truck and they got, barely getting paid on their jobs, yeah, there's a problem there.
Absolutely.
you
Yeah,
know, like,
100%.
like there's a big problem there.
Yeah.
We didn't have a great storm year in Minnesota this year,
Nope. Nope.
and the two before that were phenomenal.
Yep. Absolutely.
And so that always helps in the I've talked to so many people that, man, a good storm gives you that jump start. It gives you that foundation, that baseline. It brings
Hmm.
in that capital to reinvest in the company into the future. How has navigating this year been? What challenges were there that you faced, and what did you do to overcome them?
Yeah, I would say there's quite a bit of challenges that come to it, whether it's knocking old stuff, whether it's on retail or whether it's upgrades, whatever it is. But the biggest thing is like making sure that I'm supporting my guys every way possible to be able to get out there, be able to, whether it's going out knocking with them, whether it's creating that leadership. And I've had 2 really awesome leaders and a great production team, just absolutely really make an impact this year. Something that I needed, that structure and that kind of a boost to my company that's really motivated guys like, yep, I'm in the right place. Like, this can be so awesome. We get a good storm year. But I love non-storm years. Granted, this is the first time I've experienced it like with my own company. I think it's a good thing because like I'm just looking forward to a lot of the not so great competition to get out. I don't mind competition. I think it's a good thing. But there's some good players, there's some bad players. But on all 3 sides, whether it's adjusting, whether it's our side, whether it's supplementing, there's good and bad with everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say one of the biggest challenges is keeping those guys motivated, and I'm willing to throw out some goals to be able to do it.
Do you think you lost more reps this year because they haven't been able to get to the numbers that they wanted to hit? Is there any of those challenges that happen, and
Yeah, I
how
would
have you?
say there
You
definitely
know,
is where there's definitely some people that, man, it was so easy before, like now it's so
yeah,
hard. I don't know what to do, but like I think one of the things that really helps me and also Charles that works with me, it's when I got in the industry, I was thrown in Omaha where there hadn't been a storm in a year and a half, and I'm knocking all 2 year old stuff. Um, and I just I just go make it happen. But the more doors you knock, the more opportunities you get. And one of the biggest things that CJ lives by, which a lot of my guys really like too, is trying to get one more no. And
yeah,
so trying to be out there and get every opportunity possible.
yeah. There's a real missed opportunity in. I hear it in the industry all the time from a marketing perspective.
Mhm.
All of our, when with roofer marketers, we would have people that are like, I need my marketing out now. Like, I need my
Yeah.
Facebook, a storm hit. And if I'm not the first person, I'm never going to get any business.
Yep. Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know if you have the right
I
mindset for
disagree.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and then I had like, other owners on the company, like Lisa with, down in Florida. She, like, her team will work a storm for like 12 to 18 months. Like,
Yep.
they'll work it, like, they're coming back, they're coming back, they're coming back, they're coming back, they're coming back. Like, they I think the persistence is where the money is.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say like there's a lot of results come from repetition. Like me, like I've been working an area with, I don't know, just myself, half inch hail for 3 years, the same town over and over and over again, a little town of like 3,000 people, 45 minutes south of the cities, and by doing so. When a storm does hit there, all the roofers go to that one area, but somehow I get a lot of the business because I've stayed in that area. I've kept my footprint there. I think there is a huge benefit to staying consistent, being in an area and working it, and also making sure those homeowners have a positive experience because they will post you on Facebook, they will leave you reviews. I'm very proud to have the 4.8 stars we do have. Not everyone's going to give you a
Yeah.
5 star. I've learned that the hard way. I really thought I was going to be five star, 5 star, 5 star, but um, not every experience is perfect. Not every experience is the same from each perspective. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, like I just try to control everything I can control and try to make sure I'm always doing what's right.
You have gone out. One of the things that you have done is you've gone out into smaller towns around
Absolutely.
Minnesota.
Yep.
How did that come about?
Yeah, I would say like one, I've hired people in those areas, because I saw an opportunity. So we are truly local in those areas. Another thing too is like, I mean, I come from working 10 states. Like I've seen opportunities, whether it's in small towns, whether it's in larger cities. I think the biggest thing is just being able to gain the trust of the people within like that like what Bensman says, quarter mile famous. You just want to be the person everyone calls and be able to keep working it. And I think where so many people miss opportunities is going to be where you do sell a job, whether it's on the outskirts or whether it's in the city. You got to keep going back to that neighborhood. You got to keep doing your 6 pack every single time, the 3 in the front, 3 in the back. And so many people are just too lazy. Oh, I've already talked to them. I love talking to them again. It's like, hey, I know you've seen me 4 times. Are you ready this time? Like I start a lot of
Yeah.
door knocks with a joke. Like I think it's fun. Like, why is everyone get a brand new roof but you?
Right. Like it's and if you gamify it that way,
Hmm.
right? It gives there's a like there's a you have to have the mindset of going back, but I think you have to have the intention that you understand that you can actually help them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it's not you're not knocking on their door to annoy them. You're knocking on their door to help them. Like there's actually if you understand the intention behind it and you believe that you are actually helping them,
Absolutely.
like would you not knock that door?
Yep.
Like like there's and it's hard to get through that mindset sometimes, right?
Hmm.
But I've noticed because we have our family's lake place in northern Minnesota,
Yep.
small town area. I grew up part of my life in northern Minnesota, small town areas. Boy, it's hard to get someone on the phone in those areas.
Oh yeah, tough. Yeah.
Um, and I
Boots on the
think that there
ground.
is just an enormous opportunity for someone to expand into those areas. I've had a couple of contractors on the show who kind of live it. They've built their businesses in that area. Terry Gualti, for one, with Integrity down in Illinois and he
Hmm.
goes down into Tennessee and Kentucky there. Um, I mean, his shop is in a town. His main office is in a town with a population of 50, and I don't know, at the time he had like 250 reviews. So like
Yeah.
but it was from the surrounding area. The team is traveling a little bit further, right? They may be
Hmm.
driving a 2 hour radius instead
Yep.
of but you and me, we both know that the traffic in the Twin Cities, it might be 2 hours from the southern metro where you are to if you got to go up to the northern metro, right?
Yep.
If you got to go through traffic. So it's, but how do you help your team in those smaller markets, bring professionalism to those small towns?
Yeah. I would say there's a couple things I've learned. Like when I was in Missouri, like I talk very proper. I talk very, yeah, it's definitely the word proper. And so when I went to Missouri, I couldn't talk proper. You got to kind of adapt to what you're in. Whether it's wearing like similar clothes or whether it's like tucking in. Like I had one guy tucking his shirt in the country, and he's a guy that like has basically lived up there all summer. He was up way past Duluth by like Mountain Iron. He was tucking in his shirt and he just wasn't having the same amount of success. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, trying to tuck your shirt, like, I think that was it. And so, I don't know. People want to work with people that remind them of each other, want to be relatable. And also just like making sure that you keep working that same area.
Yeah,
Everyone's different, like people in a dynamite act completely different than people in, let's say, like, I don't know, Northfield.
yeah,
But at the same time, like they still have a lot of the same beliefs, a lot of the same ideals, and it's kind of like the whole innovator versus like early adapter kind of thing.
yeah. There's a I think you're right. Like there's a different attitude out there. I was actually
Mm-hmm.
who was I talking to? I think I was talking with Adam Benjamin about this,
Yep.
and I was like, yeah, I was up at the lake, and up there, like if you have it's small town northern Minnesota. If you have a fancy vehicle, like you're going
That's
to
good
be
going.
looked at in a different way, right? But if you pull up in a truck that's the same price as that fancy vehicle, you're gonna like there's a or if you have a boat that costs more than that Mercedes,
Yep.
like
Absolutely.
people will, it's a weird thing, and we're talking about people in the kind of in mountain towns of Colorado in that regard too, and it's like people, the culture of the area, right?
Absolutely.
We talked about company culture, but there's a culture of the area that maybe you have to align to, right? Like if you're knocking down in Texas, I just saw a comedian talk about a joke. He was a comedian that moved from California to Texas. He still had California plates, and he got pulled over in Texas. And his rant to the cop was about, I had to get out of California with all the liberals out there, like
Yeah.
the joke was that the Texas police officer was like, oh, you could go, sir, you're good,
Yeah. Yeah.
like don't worry about it, right? Like
Find something to relate with anyone. Yeah.
you do have to fit in a way, right? There's a and adjust to the area. If you're working a higher end neighborhood, there's a different presentation that you want to have.
Yeah.
I heard a good analogy one time about, if you have a different expectation of walking into a McDonald's than walking into a Ruth Chris, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can feel the difference in what the value, the perceived value in what you're paying for,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if you were to eat the same filet mignon, it would be served that in a McDonald's, it wouldn't have the same perceived value
Yep.
as the exact same thing there. So adjusting to your environment, that's great advice.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
what have been the biggest challenges along the way? Man, going from going from zero to 10 plus
Mm-hmm.
to eight figures. We'll say 0 to 8 figures, and that's a jump. That's a lot of problems to solve. The way I look at it, right? Like there's a lot of problems to solve.
Yep.
What have been the biggest challenges that you've faced, and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, I would say it pays on the sales rep side. When I first got started, I would say the biggest one's going to be just like being willing to like go out. Like where I found the most success was when I went and knocked 29 out of 31 days in a row, and that absolutely changed my life. I went and started the company with $100,000 versus 10 grand. I've never had a loan. There's no business debt, none of that kind of stuff. Well, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people do is that they
Mm,
go and try to do it with very little capital because if you look at the three people, like there's the guy that's good at sales, there's someone that's good at production, there's always someone that's good at business. Is the business leader, let's say someone like Tony Flatham, or if you're looking at like even Chris Zimmerman, like there's someone that understands business and aren't afraid to make hard decisions. But then also, if you have a production person running a company, if the production ever starts failing, like that whole tower crumbles. You can't replace that person. They're not going to be good at the sales side. You can't implement them there. They're probably not going to be a good business owner. And if you have someone who's just good at sales only, there's so much business stuff they just don't understand. Granted, you can find those people, you can find a way to make it work, but people try to grow too fast.
mm,
Me, when I started, like I knew like I wanted a good sized team, so I was willing to save up that money, to like be able to start that company that I wanted to do. I didn't want to do it with a small capital, only do a couple roofs. Like I do, like I, I'm a business owner because I want to empower other people, not because I want to go make a ton of money. The money's the result. It's going to happen when you do the right thing, whether you're owner operator, whether you're good people. But like I thrive off teaching people. In terms of things that have been really tough for me growing is going to be delegating, learning to not wear every single hat. And, it's something I'm still learning, something I'm still trying to adapt to, and something I've gotten significantly better at. I have a great staff who means the world to me and really, make the world a better place. And that's one thing that really helps. Another thing that's really tough is like cash flow. You can't spend it. I lucky for me, like I don't need flashy things. I don't care about it. And so I haven't had as hard of a time with cash flow as I know many people have, because of that. Collecting is, really important. So that's where I've used SMA services, which is like through Hop and Weber and through Adam Patterson to be able to have someone always following up on the collections and stuff like that, which is huge because like if you don't collect that money, it's the longer you wait, the harder it is, and that's something that I'm getting better at, and I think that definitely helps because it does make a difference. And then I would say the next thing is going to be when you take on this kind of role, you're a lot of people's therapist. Being honest, with you, you're trying to keep people's morals high. People go through a lot of things. You're trying to be there for people, and I think it's really important to, and you should. However, you also got to realize when something is going to hurt your culture that you can't keep, and that's one decision I've made, whether it's on the production side or in different roles. When I've made those decisions off culture, the company every single time has benefited greatly. um, like I think a good example is, let's say you have like a $5+ million company, you're hiring someone who's never done production in their life before, probably not the best role. If you're hiring someone where you're owner operator, you have something $2-3 million, you can teach that person, you have time. But as a business owner, you have to concentrate on things that are most conducive to like the growth of the company or the sustainability, not um, not the other things. So yeah,
Yeah.
that comes to
How do you
delegation.
choose what to focus on today?
Yep,
Because there's,
correct.
there's a lot of
Yeah,
things, right?
prioritize.
It's you're juggling, right?
Yep.
Or you're playing whack-a-mole or whatever you want to, however you want to put it,
Yep.
right? Like, how are you deciding on a day-to-day basis? And we got to focus on collections. I heard from you too. I love this too. That, and just, I guess this throws the question off a little bit, but it seems like you're really willing to go outside.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, this is a problem that I don't have an answer for. Let me find an answer with someone else.
Yeah.
Like, if someone
Yeah.
else has that answer, like, let them answer the question now and solve that problem for me now. I'll learn what it takes to solve that problem myself as I'm going through that. So, you know, you know, I guess, what is that? Like, what how do you choose the thing that needs to be, the problem that needs to be solved next?
Yeah, I would say in terms of importance, what's detrimental today versus what can last today.
Yeah,
But it's also just was working a lot of long hours, and delegating the right people. Like you can't take on every task. And then I would also say just like where I'm big and ask questions and people know more than me. Like
yeah,
after John's first class in Minnesota, his first class ever, there was about 10 of us that I created a Facebook like messenger where 10 roofing owners were all in it. We're all asking each other questions. We're all helping each other. They're people I don't see as direct competition. They're people that I see as helping one another. They're all really good people. They're in that Facebook group. We share stuff all the time with each other. And it's one of the single greatest things that I feel like I've done because it not only helps my business, it helps theirs too. And I'm looking for people that are ethical, people that care, people that I have a good relationship with, and everyone else does too. And we'll actually we used to do breakfasts like basically once a month for, I mean, going on like almost 2 years straight. And so we'll probably pick those back up here this winter when everyone's less busy. But those kind of things really do help each other and do make an impact. Like a great person, like it's a reference, is Matt Kressel. Matt Kressel is like an owner operator here in Minnesota. He worked for ABC for a number of years. And if I have a siding question, him or Jordan Fox were great people to get answers from right away. Or other, and there's tons of people that
yeah.
are incredible. But surrounding myself with those right people help me not make any of the same mistakes they might have made, or they know other people that might have made.
That I want to ask you like a final question to
Yep.
summarize everything, but it's like you've said so much, and I want to maybe summarize it for you. It's like
Hmm.
you found good people to be around. You
Yeah.
found the right people to learn from. You've been inquisitive. Um, you've you've chosen a path of serving your
Hmm.
team
Yep.
and leading from the front. What? what other things, what are the, like, what's the thing? Like, what would you say the thing is
Mhm.
that like, if you are struggling, or if you are starting out, or if you want to get, if you're stuck at that 5 level and you want to get to the 8-figure level, what is that thing that people could do to get to that next level in their business?
Yeah, I would say pay for training or go work for someone who believes in training. There's so many people that don't. They just say, "Not go knock outdoors." Like, I have no problem. Like when we all go watch Sean or go have Dan come in, or if we have any kind of speaking opportunity possible that we can go take something to learn from it. Like, I encourage those guys to do it. At the end of the day, like it's up to them, but like when they see one me being willing to be on those kind of calls too, and being able to be present for them, I think that makes a huge difference. And then also just like if someone's struggling, like going out and helping them, whether it's me, whether it's one of the guys, whether it's just sitting down and talking through it and giving them the resources to be able to succeed.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Ian, for your time today, man. This has
Yeah,
been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast.
thank you, Jim.
Thank you for tuning into the Roofing Success Podcast. For more valuable content, visit roofingsuccesspodcast.com. While there, check out our sponsors for exclusive offers, shop for merchandise, and sign up for our newsletter for industry updates and tips. Also, join the Roofing Success Facebook group to connect with other professionals and stay updated on the latest trends. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. Your support helps us continue to bring you top industry insights. The website link is in the description. Thanks for listening.